Do you have any other questions for me, Counselor?
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
10 to 11 days, Anita. The emergency order covers all drivers from the Lower Mainland to Hope, the Sea to Sky region, Vancouver Island, and the Gulf Islands. Essential vehicles like ambulances, fire trucks, public transit, commercial trucks, and infrastructure repair vehicles are not limited. Gas stations will have to make sure their fuel lasts until December 1st. The storms have shut down the Trans Mountain pipeline, which supplies some of BC's fuel, but the province is bringing in more gas from Alberta, Washington, Oregon, even California. Mike Farnworth says police won't be enforcing fuel limits at gas stations. Instead, he's asking you to try to get around in other ways if you can.
And we're stepping up in every way we can because we know that Russia must win this war. But because your fight is our fight. You are fighting for your sovereignty, for your territory, for your language, for your culture, for your democracy. Chrystia has outlined what the mandatory vaccination that's in place immediately for federal employees will look like. The bottom line, proof of vaccination will be required by no later than the end of this month for all federal employees. There will be a short period where people who are in the process of getting vaccinated can show a negative COVID-19 test, but by the end of November, if you're 12 or older and want to fly or take the train, you'll have to be fully vaccinated. I have heard, and you have heard, and we have all heard directly from friends, loved ones, Canadians in general, how eager everyone is to get through this, get back to normal, get to a better summer, end this pandemic once and for all. Everyone wants that, and we know the way to do that is to get as many people vaccinated as quickly as possible. That every single vaccine available in Canada has been approved by Health Canada as being both safe and effective.
All of Canada's vaccines are highly effective in every combination that we have. And I presented data last week that showed that here in BC, and we have similar data from other provinces across the country. For those who have taken AstraZeneca, who've taken the vaccine that was offered to you at the first opportunity, you did the right
Yesterday, in an effort to provide Canadians with the most complete and up-to-date information possible, Health Canada announced that it has updated the product label for the AstraZeneca and Covishield vaccines.
The new warning label comes after a small number of patients experienced serious blood clots within 2 weeks of receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine.
In Canada, the provinces have administered over 300,000 doses of the Covishield version of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
I am so glad to be here in Victoria today. Inflation in Canada fell to 2.9% in January. That's great news for all of us. So many people here in BC are still struggling to make ends meet. They're struggling to juggle their bills at the end of the month. They're struggling to find a nice, affordable place to rent. Our government was elected on a promise to deliver for the middle class. And our economic plan is focused on building an economy that works for everyone, with good jobs that people can count on.
BC Strategies, the biggest contractor hired by the government to develop the ArriveCan app, has finally revealed how much it directly profited.
After taxes, after expenses, through dividends, but I told you it's approximately $2.5 million.
And for that, the two-person IT staffing firm says it did less than 10 hours of clerical work a week.
The Chinese government arrested and arbitrarily detained two Canadian citizens, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, for political reasons. There was absolutely no justification, no reason, no excuse for them to do that. And we have stood strong from the very first day. The fact that the Chinese government thinks that because we actually believe in supporting and taking care of citizens who go through hardship as somehow proof for letting them off the hook just demonstrates the depths to which China does not understand what it is to be a rule of law country that takes care of its citizens. From the very beginning, we've been there to support the two Michaels who went through unimaginable difficulties being arbitrarily detained by China. We will continue to be there to support them, recognizing that no one should have had to go through that situation, that the decision by China to use them as pawns in geopolitical games was absolutely unacceptable, which is why we're continuing to support them and why we're actually working around the world on initiatives against arbitrary detention to make sure that no one anywhere gets used as a political pawn. This place is broken.
The era of global warming has ended. The era of global boiling has arrived.
He's upset at Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, and Dr. Jay, who's one of the authors of the Great Barrington Declaration, which talked about how to handle the pandemic, which is the way we'd always handle pandemics, is that you target the vulnerable and that you can't vaccinate your way out of a pandemic, just like Dr. Robert Malone said on my show in June of 2021. That you can't do that. And in fact, that's exactly what they tried to do. And of course, it didn't work. Everybody got COVID. The exact opposite of what they said was supposed to be the effect of vaccinating everyone. The exact opposite. Everybody got it.
You will always have conspiracy theories when you have very challenging public health crises. They are nothing but distractions.
President retweeting a conspiracy video alleging that masks do not work. The video was then removed by Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube because it violated rules against spreading misinformation.
The second most powerful man in the world, revealing himself in this video as a mask truther.
A major study finding masks made no difference in stopping the spread.
Mask mandates, it turns out, were an utter failure. It's not me saying it, but the New York Times. The mask mandates did nothing. Will any lessons be learned? Brett Stevens cites a comprehensive British review of 78 randomized studies with more than 600,000 participants.
So that wasn't scientifically sound.
Effective.
The mask guidance
correct.
was not
It wasn't science-based, and the 6 feet of distancing was arbitrary.
All around the country, over the weekend, protests popped up. These morons and internet conspiracy theories, demanding an immediate end to lockdowns. And let's be honest, people, this is both insane and counterproductive. Because the more you gather in groups, the longer the lockdown will have to go on.
Did lockdowns during COVID prevent severe effects from COVID-19? Did it help in the arc of the pandemic? Economists from Johns Hopkins say no.
The report warned against using lockdowns as a pandemic measure in the future because of the low effectiveness on mortality and the consequences for the economy.
The lockdowns, in terms of their effects on mortality, we measured it against mortality, were basically irrelevant.
They destroyed people. They literally killed people. When you shut down medical care, in spring of 2020 alone, there were 650,000 cancer chemotherapy patients in this country alone. Half of them didn't get their chemo because they were afraid. They were told it was dangerous to go to a medical facility.
You weighed in on a theory that's been floating around that perhaps the number of fatalities related to COVID-19 is being inflated because people are actually dying of other things. What's your read on that theory?
You know, Savannah, there is absolutely no evidence that that's the case at all. You know, I think it falls under the category of something that's very unfortunate, these conspiracy theories that we hear about.
Even though wackos, Trump wackos are doing conspiracy theories saying those numbers are padded.
What should we say to people who conspiracy theorize about an overcount of the deaths?
Follow up now to my conversation with LA County Health Director Barbara Ferrer, who last week acknowledged the county may be overcounting COVID deaths by as much as 20%.
Could it be a secondary contributing cause? So, for example, somebody with kidney disease, COVID then pushes them over the edge to have kidney failure. That's COVID as a contributing cause. And then the third is COVID as an incidental finding. So somebody coming in with a gunshot wound or a heart attack and they happen to test positive.
Now, part of the conspiracy theory is that the disease started in a laboratory in Wuhan.
Just weeks ago, Dr. Anthony Fauci rejected the conspiracy that coronavirus was man-made in a lab in Wuhan, China. And yet this week, Donald Trump is still pushing the debunked bunkum.
A lot of people on the right love that phrase, escape from the lab, because it sounds like something from a Marvel movie or a comic book.
Everyone who believes in the conspiracy is saying that it came out of a lab in Wuhan rather than through food at a market.
and he continued to push a conspiracy theory that has already been debunked by our intelligence community. This whole notion that the coronavirus was developed in a Chinese lab. That has been debunked.
There's a report today that another intelligence arm of the U.S. government, this is inside our energy department, has joined the FBI in concluding that COVID began with a lab leak in China.
Is that I don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
Right? I certainly don't trust reporters. Because reporters treated this initially as if it was nothing more than a crazy, unhinged conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
So who do you trust, right? You can't trust the legacy media outlets because that was their narrative.
It came out of the city that has the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a Chinese lab that worked on coronaviruses. And that is an awfully large coincidence. And that's what I've thought throughout, that was an awfully large coincidence.
The attack on the whistleblower is never wise. It's never lawful. It's never honorable. It's everything you said. It's a travesty.
And I'm not going to call them whistleblowers.
They don't deserve whistleblower protection. Each and every one of them has a strange history, has, guess what, Russian connections.
They always do.
These are not, as we would consider them, whistleblowers, people who are alleging wrongdoing.
They weren't really whistleblowers at all. In fact, they weren't even credible witnesses.
2 or 3 people who are political operatives, but they're not whistleblowers. These guys are not whistleblowers, period.
Is a hardworking, patriotic person in the intelligence community who just wants to put the information out there.
The president to call into question the credibility of this whistleblower. They're referring to this whistleblower as the so-called whistleblower.
So-called whistleblower on the Biden family.
Welcome back to So-Called Whistleblower. From the so-called whistleblowers.
See, so-called whistleblowers.
So-called whistleblowers.
So-Called whistleblowers.
So-called whistleblower.
So-called whistleblower.
So-called whistleblowers.
Whistleblowers, that's what he's calling them.
Whistleblower.
Quote-unquote whistleblowers.
They're alleged IRS whistleblower.
The GOP is marketing as whistleblowers.
Quote-unquote whistleblowers.
Jim Jordan, who's the chair of the Oversight Committee, is lauding them as brave Americans.
Whistleblower, a true patriot coming forward with the allegations.
But that's why the whistleblower is a hero in many ways.
This whistleblower is a hero.
The whistleblower is a public servant.
And now,
To stay anonymous.
like heroism is being kind of thrust on this person.
We can't imply this person is partisan.
The person has been deemed credible and a patriot.
Great courage to do the right thing.
The whistleblower did was really patriotic.
This whistleblower was not alone spiritually. The best composed, best written, best documented such complaint I've ever seen.
Thank you, whistleblower. I consider your complaint to be credible and urgent.
Do what Donald Trump was doing in going after or targeting the people who helped this, I would say, very brave whistleblower. If you've got an allegation against the Biden family, then come on board, because you too can be their next whistleblower.
Hunter Biden's whistleblower.
Right.
This whistleblower who is going to just tell us all the horrible things he had been up to. Reappropriating the term whistleblower after doing everything they could to endanger the life of the actual whistleblower that led to Donald Trump's first impeachment. The actual whistleblower. The actual whistleblower.
On these goose chases by Jim Jordan after these supposed whistleblowers.
Been trying to undermine the institutions that holds the powerful accountable.
To try to come up with a whistleblower who is viable,
I hope there are more whistleblowers out there.
These folks are sophisticated people inside the White House.
I would say you're true patriots.
Patriotic and dedicated Americans that this country has.
This whistleblower, this is another human being. It is a terrifying prospect to go and try to sound an alarm about the most powerful person in the country. The major pillars that prop up the Republican fiction that President Joe Biden and his family are entangled in some sort of criminal enterprise. The first pillar, a so-called whistleblower.
But they're really criticizing science, because I represent science.
If you're vaccinated, you really don't need to worry about getting it in a way that's serious or transmitting it.
That is true. That is correct, Chris. It'll either protect you completely against infection, and the chances are very likely that you'll not be able to transmit it
to other people. The risk is extremely low of transmitting it to anybody else. Full stop.
Vaccinated people are clearly capable of transmitting the infection.
When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better.
If people are not wearing masks, then maybe we should be mandating it.
I often myself wear 2 masks.
And I'm quoting you now, at the population level, masks work at the margins, maybe 10%. To hear that they only work at the margins, maybe 10%, would make a lot of people ask, okay, then why was I wearing a mask?
You're really attacking not only Dr. Anthony Fauci, you're attacking science.
When you say that this is going to go away tomorrow like magic, when you know that there's no chance it's going to just disappear.
We hope this just goes away, burns itself out.
So my question is, why weren't you straight with the American people about this to begin with?
So the bottom line is, it's a guesstimate. I gave a range.
It seemed in that quote to suggest that you were basing your recommendation on polling and what people could accept. Is that not what you meant?
No, I mean, it's a bit of that.
We're seeing all of these school closures around the country. Is that the right move for children and families?
And I think what's going on right now is generally an appropriate approach. You want to start doing something to socially distance yourself. How dramatic that is, closing schools and doing other things, should be proportionate.
It went too far, that particularly for kids who couldn't go to school except remotely, that it's forever damaged them.